Welcome back, Zach here. In this video, I want to talk about Villanova's upset over Kansas just this evening, March 26th, 2016. Tonight was another perfect example of sports scripting by the numbers. When I first did my prediction video for the tournament, I began by talking about the Amtrak train wreck in Kansas. And I made a major omission in that video. Based on my research, the way I saw the dots aligning, I thought the national championship would be North Carolina defeating Kansas. With Villanova's upset tonight over Kansas, the train wreck popped right back into my mind. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to link it in the description. I talked about how the train wreck had all these parallels with the Philadelphia train wreck of May 12, 2015, which was directly connected to the NBA Finals last year that were won by the Golden State Warriors over the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you're not aware, the Warriors basketball team is originally from Philadelphia. They won the championship in '47, the first ever NBA championship over the Chicago Stags. The train that crashed in Kansas was supposedly on the way from Los Angeles to Chicago. Anyhow, Villanova is very close to Philadelphia. Villanova has now upset the favorite to win the tournament, Kansas. And that Kansas train wreck, paralleled with last year's Philadelphia train wreck, has suddenly come much more into focus. In my preview video, I showed why I thought the championship would be North Carolina over Kansas. In that research, I made a major omission with the Villanova connections to this season, going back to the year 1985, the only year they won the national championship. In 1985 is when the NCAA tournament expanded to 64 teams. And we're going to talk about the significance of this number 64, which Villanova won with tonight. So more interesting facts to come. Please stay tuned. By the end of this post, you should have no doubt that sports are scripted by the numbers, collegiate and professional. Kansas tonight tanked, so Villanova could win. For those of you who watched the press conference and saw the Kansas player crying afterwards, remember, you don't know the full reason he's crying. He could be crying because he feels bad that he tanked the game. You know, these players aren't the ones making the choice. They're being forced into these situations. And I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but I do know these games are scripted, and they're scripted by the numbers. My predictions aren't always going to be right, but my assessment that the games are scripted, and if you have enough knowledge, you can connect the dots for who's going to win, I know that's true. College basketball, not my field of expertise at all. As I said in my preview video, I haven't watched a single college basketball game all season, but I have tuned in during the tournament to catch what's going on. So let's go through everything that stands out. The score was 64-59. We're going to talk about 64. 59 is a number related to death. Tonight, Kansas essentially died in the tournament. Their season's over. When you add those numbers together, it sums to 123. The word conspiracy in gematria equals 123. The birthday boy for Villanova, number 15, who hit the free throws at the end, he has birthday numerology of 123. We'll talk more about it. What I notice about Villanova's basketball program is they are in their 96th year of existence. This number stands out. 96 is a number connected to Freemason. The Freemasons operate college and professional sports by the numbers, probably largely for gambling purposes, all the money that rakes in off of that. The coach of Villanova, his full birth name in gematria sums to 96, which we'll talk about. I also noticed that Villanova is 36 years old this year. Villanova in gematria equals 36, or not 36 years old this year, but they're in their 36th year of being in the men's Division I tournament known as March Madness. They've been in 4 Final Fours and won 1 championship in '85, again the year the tournament expanded to 64 teams. Word Freemason, 96. Villanova, 96 years old this year, a special year. They won the championship in 85, which was 31 years ago. In gematria, basketball equals 85. That's the big way. The small way, it equals 22 and 31. The birthday boy, number 15, turned 22 years old tonight. Very special number, big game for him. When he was hitting his free throws at the end, the announcer was discussing how his birthday wish was to beat Kansas no matter how few points were scored, and it was a very low-scoring game. Earlier this year in the tournament, there was the birthday boy, the big upset over Purdue. Little Rock, the player turning 22, scored 31 points on the game in the major upset. Again, the gematria of Villanova Wildcats sums to 64, just like March Madness. And tonight, the Villanova Wildcats won was 64 in the March Madness tournament. Tournament that's been at 64 teams since 1985, the year they won the championship. Also, today, March 26th, is typically the 85th day of the year. This year's a leap year, so it's the 86th, but still, the date connected to the 85th day. Lots of big 85s in the tournament. And just pay attention, even if you're a skeptic. After watching these videos, listen to the numbers I'm talking about. This last weekend, I was visiting my dad. I haven't seen my dad in years. Him and I sat down and we watched basketball. We saw the end of the Oklahoma game. Before the end of it, I was talking to him about the significance of 85 in basketball and how it was showing up in games. Oklahoma ended up winning the game with 85 points. And if you watched the game last weekend, at the end, before Buddy, I forget his last name, the star player of the team, before he shot the final free throw, he left the free throw line, walked all the way down to his bench, talked to his coach, came back and shot it and missed it, with the game finishing at 85 points. And I looked at my dad and I said, you know what? I think the coach just told him to make sure he misses that free throw. I really think these games are scripted to the point. The players, the coaches, they are told what to hit, what number matters. Not in all games, but in the games that are part of the main script, the top teams, the final narratives. Villanova will be playing Oklahoma. With regards to Villanova equaling 36, that connects to this year, 2016, as I've been explaining. 2016 seems to be the year of 666. It's getting coded heavily in sports and news stories. Here's the connections it has to 666. 2016 in numerology becomes 20 plus 16 equals 36. When you add every number 1 through 36, it sums to 666. Also, 2016 in numerology, 0 doesn't count, so it's a lot like 216. 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216. Villanova, with its 36 gematria, fits into the numerical meaning of the year. Also, as I talked about in my preview video, the Philadelphia train wreck, the train was traveling 106 miles per hour. The Kansas train wreck happened in Garden City. Garden City has gematria of 106, a lot like Philadelphia's 106 mile per hour train wreck. Prophecy in Jewish gematria, let me just show this to you, equals 666. Prophecy in simple English gematria sums to 106. This train wreck was foreshadowing what was to come in the tournament. I explained this, but I did not make the Villanova connection, a major omission. Prophecy, 666 Jewish gematria, 106 simple English. The train wrecked in Garden City, 106. Amtrak, 64. Talking a lot about 64 here. Here's Villanova's championship. Their head coach becomes the first Villanova coach to go to 2 Final Fours, 2009 and 2016. They hadn't done it since 85. Notice Villanova has a V. V's the 22nd letter. A big theme tonight was Ryan, with a last name I can't pronounce, turning 22. Talk more about that in a moment. Head coach is known as Jay Wright, born in the year 61, the reflection of 16. His birth name is Gerald Taylor Wright. Gerald Taylor Wright has gematria of 96, Villanova 96 years old. If you add the junior, here I'll just show this to you so you don't have to take my word for it. These gematria calculators, very helpful for those of you learning. You have to spell right. Gerald Taylor Wright has gematria of 96. When you add the junior, it sums to 106, this number of prophecy. I wish I had decoded this earlier, Truth Seeker. Jay Wright, the name he goes by, has gematria of 49, like Revelation. Jay Wright, the big way, 121, also like Revelation. The reason Revelation is significant is because the name Philadelphia comes from the book of Revelation in the Bible, which is the exact same as Jay Wright. Revelation's also where the number 666 comes from. Revelation's a book of prophecy. It is used for playbook in sports and news stories. Again, the Philadelphia train wreck traveling 106 miles per hour last year. A lot lines up for Villanova. This is something I had not seen until tonight. I was feeling very confident about North Carolina, Kansas. Major omission here on my part. I apologize. But as I always say, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know these college sports that well. Had I seen these things before, this would have had a major impact on my opinion, especially with the train wreck, again, where I began with my preview video, which you can watch down in the description. I never run away from my mistakes. As I always say, this is learning on the go. With the more passing time, I get better from seeing the examples, from doing the research. His birthday, Jay Wright, a date with some interesting numerology. What stands out the most is the 36, connected to Villanova in their 36th year of being in the tournament. At the end, they were talking about Ryan and how it's his birthday and it was his wish. Today he turned 22. Basketball equals 22. He's born in Philadelphia, hometown kid. As I explained in countless videos, the birthday is so significant to the Freemasons who rig it. And there's so many birthday tributes in sports. It happens in the pros, it happens in college, it happens in football, baseball, basketball, and the rest. Birthday and Freemason both equal 42 the small way. Remember, Freemason's 96 the big way. His birth name is Ryan Kieran Arcidiacono. Sorry if I butchered the last name. Nothing stands out so much in his first name besides Ryan, which has gematria 58 like Freemasonry. His birth numerology, interesting. 123 like tonight's score, like the number for conspiracy. Also, he has a life lesson number of 52. The United States is currently 239 years old. 239 is the 52nd prime. Pope Francis's visit to Philadelphia had a lot to do with this number, as well as the Philadelphia train wreck. The flag was sewn in Philadelphia, the U.S. flag at 239 Arch Street, the nation's original capital. I should also point out that Ryan equals 22. He turned 22 years old tonight, like basketball. Again, he plays for Villanova, represented with the V, the 22nd letter. Ryan on the game was 3 for 6, a lot like 36. Oftentimes they script these stats into the box score. Talked about LeBron James's game earlier this year where he went 9 for 23 by the numbers in light of the name LeBron James equaling 923 in Jewish gematria. I can just show you this real quick. LeBron James equals 923. The Philadelphia train wreck was at 9:23 p.m. LeBron James starred in the movie Trainwreck after the NBA Finals. Again, I'll link the video in the description about the preview. I go into all this stuff in much greater detail, how it all syncs up. At the end of the game, Ryan took the line with the score 56-54. He made both his free throws, bringing the score to 58. Ryan equals 58. Freemasonry equals 58. He did this with 33 seconds on the clock, a number of Freemason obsession. Frank Mason, the Kansas player, would then come down the court, drill a three-pointer. They would foul the birthday boy, put him back at the line. I couldn't believe that there was 22.3 seconds left on the clock. I want to call it a coincidence. This is another very special number connected to Philadelphia, connected to Revelation. Some things can be a coincidence. It just blows my mind sometimes the way the clock stops. Perhaps the clock really stopped at 22.8 seconds, but it's a fraction of a second and they just make it hit at 22.3. If you follow my channel, I talk a lot about the number 223. In the recent Brussels, Belgium terror hoax, this was the number of focus. You can watch my last video that I just put out earlier today. Talk a lot about this number 223. And of course, Ryan turning 22 today, on the line with 22 seconds. At the end of the game, the way it ended was with this. Frank Mason dribbled the ball over here, picked up his dribble, looked around like an idiot, and number 15 came through and just poked it away. Villanova player falls on top of the ball. The announcer instantly says, "This reminds me of 85, when, I forget the player's name, landed on top of the turnover to secure the championship." It made me think this whole sequence was scripted for this ending, for that memory, a tribute to the Villanova 85 team. And this is the kind of stuff we see in sports all the time that are rigged by the numbers. Remember, the recent Cardinals NFC Championship began with a touchdown pass to the back right corner of the end zone, reminiscent of the Cardinals-Steelers Super Bowl, which the announcer also talked about. Got to go back and watch my football work. This kind of stuff is just always going on in sports. It's truly scripted like a theater act. After the game, ESPN put up this ticker right here, 46 seconds. March Madness has gematria of 46 and 64, reflections of each other. Last year, the championship fell on April 6th, which can be written 4/6 or 6/4. Then they changed the timer to a minute 44. They got other side stories up with a minute 44 right now. The reason this stands out to me is because the championship this year is on April 4th, when written out as a word has gematria of 144, as does the word 44. And this year, April 4th, 2016, is a date with 44 numerology as well. Last year, the championship was won by Coach K, born on the 44th day of the year, over Wisconsin. Wisconsin's star player wore the number 44. His birthday was April 4th, Frank Kaminsky. Wisconsin, one of only 2 states with a gematria of 44. The same numbers routinely show up in several ways. 44 is always a big number in sports. Right now it's being coded on top of Villanova's big win. Based on how much lines up for North Carolina, I don't want to write off everything I said about North Carolina defeating Kansas in the championship. North Carolina could still very well defeat Villanova in the championship. A ton lines up for North Carolina. As I pointed out, Marcus Page, the point guard for North Carolina who struggled in the season, a lot lined up for him. I predicted in my preview video, North Carolina wins the tournament, and Page is possibly the MVP, having a great tournament run. In his latest game, he played very well. That narrative is shaping up. I will say now, though, that I expect the championship to be North Carolina and Villanova. I'm a little bit torn on who's going to win because I missed this Villanova angle and all the alignment, especially with the train wreck. It could happen, but I do expect Villanova, North Carolina in the championship. So for those of you who just want to focus on what I'm wrong about and attack me for that, that's not an intelligent stance. My work is well beyond proven. Before the Super Bowl, I guaranteed it would be Broncos and Panthers. I guaranteed the Broncos would win. I said Von Miller would be the MVP. I said there would be a Black Panthers tribute. These are impossible predictions to make without understanding this language and this scripting. I know more about professional football than any other sport, so it's easier for me to project what will happen. In college basketball, I don't have the same amount of knowledge, but I still know the patterns. I know what to look for, and here I am moments after the game putting 2 and 2 together. I wish I had connected to Villanova to Philadelphia after the train wreck. Villanova was one of the teams I decoded in my first write-up starting to break down the tournament. I saw the March Madness connection, but again, overlooked the Philadelphia connection. Philadelphia huge in sports for basketball. Philadelphia 76ers began the season by starting with a record losing streak, while the Golden State Warriors began with a record winning streak. Again, Golden State originally from Philadelphia, winning the championship in 47. And with regards to 47, I want to point out that number 15, the birthday boy, he knocked down a three-pointer near the end of the game to score the 47th points. Very special numbers to the Masons and Zionists who rig it by the numbers. So hope the message came through clear. Sorry for those of you who went Kansas, North Carolina in your brackets based on my advice. Thought I had it. Overlooked the big V. All right, Truth Seeker, until next time. Encore, I just want to make one last point. To rig these games, all you need are the refs, the coaches, and a few key players. The point guard who handles the ball would be the perfect person, such as Frank Mason, who I believe is a Manchurian athlete. We talked about how at the end of the game he seemed to participate in the scripted play for Villanova. And in the game before, he was criticized for making this really ultimate garbage hoop at the end, bringing the Kansas score to 79 points. Anyhow, I just want you to notice some things about his name as well. Frank Mason, as he goes by, has gematria 49, a number we talked about, as well as 58, two numbers we talked about, connected to Freemasonry, Revelation. Frank Mason's also born in 94, the reflection of 49. His birth name, Frank Leo Mason, also has this gematria of 144. And honestly, when I saw this the other day, when they won with 79 points, I was thinking this was further confirmation that he would be in the championship, which comes a day after his birthday. So part of the reason I say this is just to let you know that understanding this language of numerology and gematria, it has the power to lead you down the wrong path. But if you see enough of the evidence clearly, if you know the sport well enough, if you connect enough dots, you'll typically be led in the right direction. Had I made the Villanova connection to Philadelphia in light of the train wreck at the beginning of the tournament, I probably would have went with that. So again, this research, it's not a perfect science. You need knowledge. You need the ability to connect dots. That's why more minds working at this, the more successful the predictive outcomes will be. Again, apologies to those of you who I led down the path of Kansas and North Carolina. All right, until next time.